Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlan, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Mark Leibovit, editor and publisher of the Leibovit VR newsletters, also known as VRTrader.com. He's speaking to us from Arizona. Welcome back to the show, Mark.
Glad to be back, Jim. Thank you.
Mark, have you seen anything in the markets that would indicate influence from geocosmic events like the first day of spring or sunspots?
Yeah, well, we're always monitoring that. In my newsletter every day, there's a great little website. I mean, I'm not creating this stuff. It's called spaceweather.com. And if you go to spaceweather.com, they cover the solar activity and all kinds of crazy things, including potential asteroids and fun stuff. But the solar activity is sort of an important factor because solar flares and so forth can influence our atmosphere and electromagnetic effects and so forth. And in fact, I put one in the letter just, I think yesterday, there was one that just passed the Earth the other day, and I can't say it had any effect on the market, but there have been instances in history where strong surges have knocked out power and so forth. So it's sort of a fun thing that I pay attention to. Of course, I'm watching the lunar cycles to see if there's any change of direction points in the market. We found over the years there's a correlation with a day or two of a lunar cycle, whether it's a quarter moon, half moon, full moon, and so forth. The market's overbought, oversold. You can see some confirmation of a little change. And, of course, the seasonal stuff you just referred to is more big picture stuff, like the March lows. We saw this year and last year, around the vernal equinox, and the high we saw was last August, September, under the fall autumnal equinox and so forth. So there's always looking at stuff out there, and people sort of laugh, but we're not impervious to those things. Then, of course, I look at other stuff too: earthquake activity, volcanic activity on the Earth. There's a couple websites that we track there as well. There's been a little uptick in volcanic activity. Not dramatic, but there's little things that we're seeing. So there might be something happening in the geocosmic sphere that could be affecting the volcanic activity. And there's some websites that point to the risk. I mean, it's probably minimal, but we're always worried about a potential polar shift and stuff like that, which obviously, if that happens, that could be disastrous for the planet. So we go about our days, and everything we think is real normal, but forces of nature and God, have plans for us that we can't, possibly foresee, and we have to deal with them and recognize that these things could change our lives and the markets. And I sort of, found this started as sort of a hobby with me, but I started to see correlations, and I pay attention to it.
Well, the North Pole, the magnetic pole, moves 50 miles, 80 kilometers every year. The way it's going to be in St. Petersburg, Russia soon. Yeah, well,
there is a risk of, there have a tremendous amount of research on this. I mean, I'm not the end all here, but we're due. There's some signs that the risk of some type of shift is coming. Historically, it's probably ended civilizations and so forth, and over the millennia on this planet. There's evidence that we had high civilization on Earth, hundreds of thousands or millions of years ago that got wiped out by sudden whether it's polar shift, asteroids, or other events on the planet. So I don't think the civilization we see today is by any stretch a new event. I think we've seen it before. People speculate about Atlantis, how that existed and disappeared. So a lot of evidence on this. Is a great program on the History Channel that I watch every week called Ancient Aliens, and what it actually does is it goes off the ancient history of the planet, ancient texts, artifacts, architecture, and so forth, showing evidence of high civilization on the planet that suddenly disappeared. Could happen to us. We think we're so cocky here. Some dramatic planetary event, we're history. And it may have happened, like I say, it may have happened before. In fact, there is evidence that it has happened before. That suddenly there's evidence of, what I say, high civilization with high technology, not just ancient peoples, walking around, but, building structures like the pyramids and so forth, which our present technology can't even account for. How such structures could even be created without some use of higher technology. So they're God, and we're here, but we're likely we're not going to be here forever. We're going to see, whether it's in our lifetime or what, something is out there changing. But of course, I'm not looking at that. I'm trying to figure out that many of these shorter term events could have some effect on the markets, and there's so many celestial factors out there that affect our mood, the weather, and so forth, and markets are going to respond to that.
Well, speaking of weather, what kind of action are we seeing in agricultural commodities right now, and is it weather related?
Well, there have been some food shortages in Europe. There are some signs that we've seen an increase in prices in food. Some of it is attributed to the COVID event. Was this nothing new, where farmers and so forth had to dispose of crops or milk or eggs or so forth because of lack of delivery opportunities, transportation interferences and so forth. But we have seen an uptick in commodity prices, and there are those who are predicting real greater food shortages ahead. And whether this is just function of planetary events, seasonal or greater cycles that impact crops and weather and so forth, time will tell. But there are signs of it. We've seen commodity prices uptick. They had a little pullback here in recent couple of weeks, but there are signs that higher prices are ahead, and some may just attribute to inflationary forces. But what creates that? There's more demand, less supply. Why is there less supply at the moment? And I think a lot of it has to do with the geocosmic situation I described. Things are affecting our ability to grow food, and things are changing. So just you asked a very general comment. I would have to do more research and get more specific, but I'm anticipating higher prices for commodities and possible shortages related to that.
There's that saying, sell in May, go away. Is that related to the seasonal cycles, or is that just something that happens to stock markets naturally?
That's a good question. I'm sure there's a cycle that is affecting that, because nothing is accidental, Jim, and we're actually in that sequence right now. There's a seasonal tendency for some strength in the markets between March and May. There's also a seasonal tendency for a change around mid-March. Sometimes it's a low, as we've recently seen, and sometimes it could invert on you. So we're in that mini positive period now, and I would be surprised if there's some celestial correlation to the April-May peak, other than just arbitrarily it happens. Of course, there are some things that I can't explain. Like one of the things we don't joke about, we write about it every week. We call it Turnaround Tuesdays. And uncannily, if you look at the markets, if it's up on Monday, it tends to be down on Tuesday, or if it's down on Monday, up on Tuesday. And it doesn't mean it's a long-lasting effect. It could be for a few hours, or for the day, or for a couple of days. So what causes turnaround Tuesdays? I've been writing about this for decades. So markets are strong on Monday and I want to buy something, I generally say, gee, there's a good chance there's going to be a turnaround Tuesday and I could do a little bit better on Tuesday rather than chasing something on a Monday. So, this kind of stuff, it's, I just wonder if there's, what could create a change of direction on Tuesdays, but it does occur. So maybe it's not related to some planetary or celestial event. Maybe it's human nature. Maybe people overreact on Mondays, either up or down, and they change their minds a little bit on Tuesday. But human nature certainly has something to do with it because it is affecting prices. So, whether it's the turnaround Tuesday or the Santa Claus rally or the turkey shoot, the strong rally we get a day before U.S. Thanksgiving, whether it's the solstices, the equinox causing changes of direction at different times of the year, whether it's the impact of the full moon, new moon. Ian McAvity, I wrote about this, talked about this on this interview many times, the Toronto analyst, newsletter writer who used to create a letter called Deliberations, was a strong believer in correlation of the moon to the markets. And in fact, he influenced me. I first heard his work way back in the early 1970s that he proclaimed that correlation. And sure enough, there is one. Nothing's 100%, but it exists. So I look at all kinds of stuff. I don't just look at, read the Wall Street Journal or turn on the news, financial or other news and think that this is the end all. Things are out there and you got to pay attention to them. And I'm sure I'm going to discover more during the course of my life. And I enjoy doing it, and I find that it does help you make money or help you prevent losses.
We'll have more with Mark Leibovit right after this.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications, patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Mark Leibovit. With the stock market so hot right now, the question people ask so often is, does it look like they're ready to top out, and is it time to take cover and start working shorts?
Well, we're always looking at trading opportunities, but short term, like I mentioned a moment ago, in this March to May period, you brought up sell May, go away. Some years it even comes in April, so it could be even next few days, but it tends to run into May, and then you tend to get seasonal weakness into the fall. And my overall strategy for 2021, Jim, I think I've mentioned this, is I'm cautious. We don't have, I don't want to use derogatory comments on the air, but the people that are in charge in Washington D.C. are not exactly with it intellectually or politically, to the extent that they would do the best, I think, for the economy. It's what's self-serving to their political goals or agenda. So they're not all that smart, whether it's raising taxes or canceling the Keystone Pipeline or letting immigrants cross the border that may not be eligible to come, or who are not eligible to come into the country, raising taxes, all kind of spending like a drunken sailor with regard to new finance bills, whether it's for infrastructure or to bail out states and cities that mismanage their finances during the course of the COVID event. Eventually we're going to pay a price for this, and I think the markets see it. You're seeing an uptick in interest rates. You're seeing a strong surge into the cryptocurrencies, which is some of done spectacularly well, as you know, in recent months. So my overall view, and also we're getting a lot of social unrest. And a lot of it's going to be attributed to the actions of these people, in terms of making changes or restricting the freedom of speech, which you're starting to see, where if you're conservative, the media doesn't want to cover your events, and this is all politically derived, so this is going to lead to social unrest, and it's started already. So I don't know. I think the markets, though they've been living a little bit high on marijuana for a while, I think you're starting to see something more serious coming here. So, yes, they're spending money. That could come into the markets and hold it up for a while. But my view is, the year is going to be a down year when we look at it in 2022 and look back at 2021.
Well, politician is the only high-paid job that there is no minimal educational requirement for.
Right. And you got academias in there running the show, like Janet Yellen, who was former Federal Reserve chairman. Now she's head of the Treasury. I don't think she ever held a job in her life other than being an academic person. So, of course, you argue that that's one of the things that caused many to support Donald Trump, the fact that he was a businessman and didn't come from a political background and could try to manage things the way businesses are run. We don't see that in Washington, and unfortunately we need more of that type of input. But yes, we have unfortunately those who have a viewpoint which I guess mirrors that of Robin Hood, where you take from the rich and you give to the poor. And at some point, the markets are not going to appreciate that. Though I did hear some discussion, and I'm trying to think who was talking about that. The billionaires may not be affected. The billionaires who run Facebook or who run Twitter or who run Google. These guys are in the back pockets of the Democratic Party in the U.S. and no matter what happens, their finances are not going to be impacted, and they don't care by supporting the way they're supporting that it's going to affect their bottom lines. But the average guy will suffer, and unfortunately, that lies ahead until we get a sea change politically, and at some point it will come because when people's freedoms are imposed or their taxes are sky high, or if we starting to see food shortages and higher prices, how far can the government go in sending out $1,400 checks to people to keep people, supported? How long can this go on before we pay a price for it? So, got to be, we trade them. We'll try to take advantage of it. If we're wrong, we'll try to find the sectors of the stocks that will benefit. Because obviously, what I've learned over the decades is you think everything is going to go to hell and you can't make a living in the markets, but when they go down, you can make plenty of money on the short side as well. Or, as the expression goes, there's a bull market somewhere and you'll find some opportunity. So as long as an asteroid hasn't hit us, so we don't get that polar shift and it's outside of our sphere to survive, I'm sure we're going to find some opportunity. But again, I'm not too optimistic about the months ahead for the markets, looking at my indicators and looking at what's going on politically and economically around the world and in the U.S.
We'll have more with Mark Leibovit right after this.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon. Trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Mark Leibovit. Mark, any strong feelings about the junior miners?
Well, we're long here for an uptick. I get a lot of questions about gold and silver, and it's always good to keep some coins around. But generally, my experience with gold, it's great. The nothing to take away from it, but it needs to be traded like anything else. I mean, look, first of all, we know it's suppressed. There's political influence. The governments have been involved. There's an organization that I refer to, you may know of, GATA.org, GATA.org. They got 20 years in existence. They take donations. I recommend looking to them, and if you want to make a donation, to keep their research going. But tremendous amount of research documenting how the gold market, less the silver market, but the gold market's manipulated. I mean, if it wasn't, and I believe their work, I mean, if it wasn't manipulated, gold would already be $4,000 to $5,000 an ounce. So governments don't want to see it go up. As far as the miners and your question is concerned, it looks like we're in a little uptick period here on a short-term basis. There's seasonal weakness generally into the summer, and then you tend to get a rally from there. So we're monitoring it. We're long here for a trade, and I was bearish on gold coming into the year. As I mentioned in a previous interview back on February 1st, I predicted potentially, I think, 1,500 in gold before you could see any big numbers to the upside. And I think we already got down to about 1,675. And for those who were seeing gold at 2,060, 2,070. I start talking about lower prices. They thought I was crazy, and sure enough, the bearish viewpoint has been more correct than the bullish one. And as I also mentioned in a previous interview, I had a very good friend, Terry Laundrie, who passed away a few years ago. He was notable for what was called the Magic T, which is a technical indicator. And I met him way back in the 1970s. But in 2000. I used to visit him in Nantucket, Massachusetts. He's a fantastic technical guy. But back in the year 2000, he predicted a high in gold in 2020. And even though we went up to 2011 and we came down again to 2015 and we did make a new high, in 2020. And according to his work over 20 years ago, that could have been the high in gold. And we may not, according to that theory, of course, we can break through it, as a trader and technician, I'll do what I need to do. But the fact that we did peak out in 2020 and have this indigestion since then, I think is uncanny that he made that 20-year prediction. And I know I made some comments about it in the letter, and the gold bugs weren't too happy about, that being the big high in gold. But has it something to do with government intervention, manipulation in the market, or is it just a great cycle that has come in? Like anything else, you got to trade it, Jim. I mean, you got to trade this stuff. And I guess the viewpoint that having the gold in the little box buried in the backyard may be good one day when all hell hits, and you got something that over the centuries has held some value. I don't argue with that, though obviously in recent few years, the cryptocurrencies for many, particularly young people, have become the alternate investment strategy versus the physical gold, and we can see the kind of returns that we've seen in the cryptos, some thousands of percent gains, which you never saw in the precious metals. So there's a big argument that for those who are just looking to make money or be in an alternate investment, the cryptos are a better place than gold. So you got to be balanced. I guess you own a little bit of both. You don't know where the future is going to be. And so along with the response to your question is long the miners here for a bounce. My thought is we'll probably trade out of it. Maybe in the sell may go away period you referred to, and maybe we'll have another buy point later in the summer. We'll go from there.
Mark, any special offers for our listeners this week?
Sure. If you go to vrtrader.com, that's V as in Victor, R as in Robert, trader.com, and you go down to newsletters, and you get to the little promo code in the order form. If you enter 2021 quarter off, 2021 quarter, Q-U-A-R-T-E-R off, you get 25% off of any of our newsletters for any time frame that you sign up for them. So again, that's vrtrader.com, and the promo code is 2021 quarter off.
Mark, thank you so much for being on the show.
Always fun. Thanks, Jim.
My guest has been Mark Leibovit, editor and publisher of the Leibovit VR newsletters, also known as vrtrader.com. If you have any questions for Mark or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@howestreet.com. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter @HowStreet. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.